here we go. Welcome to This Week in FredNats. We're back. Off-season content 2024 coming your way. Eric Bach, voice of the FredNats. Robbie Perry, general manager of the Fredericksburg Nationals. The 2024 Carolina League champion.
Come on.
Fredericksburg
That sounds
Nationals.
good, man. Say it again.
The 2024 Carolina League champion, Fredericksburg Nationals.
Ooh.
Before we get going, we've been together 3 years now with the
Incredible.
FredNats. 3 really good years.
The best.
A lot of great players coming through this stadium that we're so lucky to call home. We said it to each other before the season, and maybe we're the only two people that can witness this, but we said, hey, 2024 is the year the FredNats win the title. We had all the star power, the big names in 2023. Obviously, it didn't happen in 23. 24, though, it did happen, and we called it.
It's pretty crazy. Like, we weren't just throwing it out there like, oh, hopefully this is going to happen. It was very like, I just have this feeling.
We had the same
feeling. Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah.
Looking back, it was like, well, I mean, maybe we were just that good,
Right.
you know, but actually, you might be that good. I definitely can't tell baseball talent like you do, but I just had that feeling. Maybe it was Jake's third year,
Yep.
you know, it was like, it's coming, and it was awesome, that's for sure.
So let's explain what we're doing here on this podcast. It's going to be every other week in the offseason. We got Travis Sykora coming up. If you're here for Sykora, you're not going to have to wait much longer. Sykora will be coming up next, but every time we're going to have a player, we're going to have Robbie on to talk about what's going on around the FredNats in the offseason. A lot of holiday stuff coming up, a lot of marketing stuff that we've got going on here for the offseason. So let's dive right in. It's November somehow. Can't believe it's almost been 2 months since the season ended, but it's Fredsgiving going on all November
here in Fredericksburg. And, you know, people always ask me, well, what do you do in the off season? Well, actually, sometimes the off season is way busier than actually in season. And it all starts with this month. We're doing something we've never done before here in Fredericksburg, and it's called Fredsgiving. And all you need to do is place a $25 or $50 deposit for your suite or hospitality or group, and you get entered in a chance to win all these kind of crazy prizes. I mean, crazy prizes.
Yeah.
Team signed bats. You know, all of our bobbleheads.
Experiences at the ballpark during games.
High five tunnels, first pitches, food credits. Like, we're literally going to put money in your pocket. So, and we're pulling a winner every single day, and it's all on social media, and, you know, we're actually giving your business a shout out and everything. So it is, get in now. It's only through November. So, and we're pulling a winner every day. So if you actually get your deposit now, you have a better chance all the way through the end of November to get one of these winnings. And once you win, you get actually to pick up the litter. So book if you're coming, if you're going to book something, at the ballpark this year, if you're going to be in the suite, if you're going to have group, if you're going to, be in the hospitality area with the picnic and the drinks, book your deposit today now for a chance to win some awesome prizes.
And if you book on, say, November 15th, you've got 15 chances to win.
15 chances,
so
yes.
the longer you wait, the fewer chances you have to actually win one of these prizes. So that's going to be a great thing that's going on right now here in November. And obviously we got the holiday season coming up. All the championship gear is in the team store. It took a minute to get everything because there was so much demand for the championship gear, but it's restocked in there, and Katie's got you locked and loaded for your potential holiday gifts for your favorite FredNat
Yeah,
fan.
we were sold out for like 3 weeks in a row because people kept on buying it so fast. But we are locked and loaded online store and the store at the ballpark. So, yes, get your merch, especially for, like you said, it's holiday season's right around the corner.
Early Christmas shopping, Black Friday's coming up, so no better time than the present.
And we have great Black Friday specials as well. So throughout the day, earlier in the day, we have Black Friday specials inside the store. Huge discount, and as the day goes on, the discount actually gets less. So you want the largest discount possible, come to the store right when it opens.
And speaking of the holidays, Virginia Credit Union Stadium obviously is known as the home of the baseball FredNats, but there's a lot of other events that go on here, non-baseball events, including holiday parties, and we have a few openings still. Great place for like a company holiday party or really any holiday celebration here in the ballpark.
Oh, for sure. It's actually, we have some openings, which is rare, but usually our Fridays and Saturdays are totally booked out. You know, there's been some rearranging of dates. So if you're looking for a holiday party, I know you're out there. I know you're listening. We can book parties up to 20 people all the way up to 150, 200 people. So even those bigger businesses, we take care of the catering. We take care of the drinks. We take care of all the cleanups. You don't have to worry about any of that.
And speaking of events, when this airs, this upcoming weekend, November 16th, we have a comedy show here, the Don't Tell Comedy Show. Some mystery comedians. You don't know who's going to step through that curtain. Pretty exciting stuff.
First ever comedy show of this kind inside the ballpark. So, yeah, we're extremely excited. It's going to be in the club, which is located behind home plate, indoor space. We're going to have some drinks, and you're going to have a bunch of, the bar is going to be open. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about that. Something we've never done. So I'm also intrigued by it. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
So we got Fred's Giving. Get your group booked now. The sooner you do it in November, the more chances you have to win one of these amazing prizes, and there's a whole list of them on FredNats.com. Get your championship gear in the team store and online, and book your holiday parties here. We're going to get to Travis Sykora in a second. Rob, appreciate you.
You're the best, man.
All right, the wait is over. We are so glad to be joined now by the 2024 Carolina League Pitcher of the Year, Travis Sykora, Washington's third rounder last summer. Really just popped onto the scene this year with the FredNats, won the Carolina League Pitcher of the Year, pitched the deciding championship game. And Trav, first of all, thanks so much for joining us. I hope that the offseason has been a little bit relaxing so far to you. We were talking before we started recording this, how it's crazy. It's almost been 2 months since the season's done. What you been up to?
Yeah, no, it's gone by quick. Last offseason, I called it my first pro offseason, but, I didn't really have an idea of, what to work on just because, I hadn't played a full pro season before. So coming into this offseason, it's been great knowing, how an actual pro season goes. And so it's been a lot of help on kind of navigating through my routine.
Yeah, your first spring training last year obviously is a huge learning curve. What do you think you know now about the process of a professional season that you didn't know at this time last year after you'd been drafted, but you hadn't really been through it yet?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is obviously everyone knows I'm routine oriented. So in high school, playing for a couple months or a few months, you can pretty much stick to the exact same thing every week. But in pro ball, with including spring training and then the very long season, learning to make adjustments here and there, have certain weeks where you take it easy just to kind of get your strength back. Sticking to the same, I guess, format, but the small little details, changing them here and there to, maximize my potential every time I tote the rubber.
I remember you and I talked a lot during the season about you telling me some of the mechanical, like little tweaks and adjustments that you were going to make in this current off season. Have you kind of decided what some of those things are, and what's that process been like?
Yeah, no, this off season, lots of, cleaning up the lower half. As we talked about last season, there's a lot of things I wanted to work on. So I think next season I feel like I had a good season, but I feel like, I wasn't able to, reach my potential just because some mechanical things. So I think next year, the fans have a lot more to look forward to with, the pitchability I learned this year, but getting my, velocity back and my efficiency back. I think it's going to, really get me to that next level.
Have you been able to reflect on how good the 2024 season really was for you? Because it's not normal for somebody to just step on the pro ball scene and win a league's pitcher of the year, win all these MILB accolades that you've had. Have you been able to step back and just go, wow, I did a really good job in 2024?
Yeah, kind of. I think the coolest part is just, looking back at what I did to get to that point, all the time and effort I put into, researching on my own and like trying to learn, pretty much how to pitch, talking to the coaches, trial and error in games, trying out certain sequences. But that's been the coolest part is just looking back at, like how much I learned. I learned the most I ever have in a baseball season this past year. And there's certain things that, I still think about, watching the World Series and watching baseball. It's like, now these things are in my brain, how to set up hitters, how to use your misses to your advantage, all that stuff. And so that's I'm most proud about myself, for just learning how to pitch. In high school, I pitched well, but, just sequencing was a big thing that I wanted to learn about. And I thought this year I did a way better job of that.
Was there one specific pitcher in the World Series that you were really paying close attention to? Like, this guy is doing it the way that I want to do it.
Um, I actually like Michael Kopech. Him being a high school righty from Texas, a lot of us, scouts look at us and say, well, they're risky, they're not going to pan out. Well, look at him, like look what he did in the World Series. He was a super aggressive, dominant pitcher, and using his fastball from the zone, that was something that I liked watching. I had a fun time watching. And then just a lot of the starters, a lot of the guys who maintain throughout the entire game, like Garrett Cole, he stays pretty in control. And then the last inning, you see him ramp it up and empty the tank. And that's something that I did this year too. So, but pretty much any right-handed pitcher, just watching him, like me and my dad, oh, look, yeah, he just pulled that slider in the dirt. So this is what he needs to do next. And just all that kind of stuff.
I want to talk more about your dad in a second, but how long did you go after the season ended not throwing a baseball at all? Did you take any time off?
I took 10 days off. Usually that's kind of where I stick to, somewhere between a week or two. Just obviously, it's more of just a mental reset. Because as soon as the 10 days are over, it's just playing super light catch, for a month and a half. So that's pretty much my downtime is just playing light catch, whether it's out in the street or up at the field. Not letting it rip or anything, just keeping my arm going, not losing my range of motion. So I'm pretty much still, taking it easy, but not completely just letting my arm go stagnant.
And to go back to your dad, you told me during the season that you first learned the splitter from your dad's a firefighter, from one of your dad's firefighter friends who pitched in pro ball back in the day. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that and how that truly got started because obviously you see a lot of guys now with different fastball shapes with the sinkers and the cutters. I think your splitter is one of the more unique and lethal pitches I've seen from a younger pitcher such as yourself. Let's walk me through the timeline of Travis Sykora's splitter and how it began.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about it. Yeah, sure. I was up at the fire station with my dad, and Troy Hirsch, the firefighter who taught me the splitter, was there, and we were talking all
Wow.
about it. And but yeah, pretty much at a young age. I think I was about 12 or so, somewhere around there, and we just go up to the fire station. We'd set up a portable mound in the bay, and my dad would put on the gear and catch me. And Mr. Troy, he would just stand there and be my pitching coach. And uh, he called it a forkball back in the day. Now it's called a splitter. You can call it anything, but he originally taught me, and from a young age, like that's kind of just all I knew because I never really had a good changeup. So for me, it was that splitter. And yeah, we just started working on it when I was 12 and got to the point where I got older and it just became my pitch. And now it's, going into pro ball, it's one of my most used pitches against lefties.
Do you remember the first time you threw it in a game?
I don't, I just know it was around, I think around eighth grade is when I started doing it more often. I know I went to some like college, it might have been seventh grade. I went to some college, like showcase camps just to have fun. And I remember throwing my splitter in the bullpens and they're like, dude, you're like 14, like, why are you throwing a splitter? I was like, it's just kind of all I know. Like, it doesn't, like, they talk about, it's straining your forearm, kind of fatiguing your forearm tendons. But for me, it's always felt good. I've never had issues with that. So, for me, it's just keeping up on grip strength, keeping my fingers strong, keeping my forearm strong. That way I don't run into any issues.
The off-season mechanical adjustments don't include a new pitch. Does it? It's going to be fastball, slider, splitter moving forward still?
Absolutely. With all these mechanical changes, my lower half, cleaning up my lower half, like I told my parents, I'm not changing anything with my arm slot. I'm not changing anything with my pitches. It's just a more efficient lower half. So that way I can, stay healthy throughout not just one season, but 20 seasons.
Yeah. So I want to talk about you in the off-season because you're back home in Round Rock, Texas, obviously with the family. When you're when it's a lighter day, when you're just throwing a little bit and there's not a whole lot of baseball going on, what is going on with Travis Sykora? Is there any trips planned? I know that you're a big fisherman.
Yeah. I've already done quite a bit of fishing. That's half of my day is baseball and training, and the rest of the half of the day is, either being with my family, spending time with them, or a lot of times fishing with my older brother. So we've been taking the boat out to the lake and figuring out the bass, figuring out the patterns, and it's been fun.
So your older brother still lives locally in Round Rock with you then.
Yeah, he lives in Austin. We live in Round Rock, so he'll come by with his truck, pick up the boat, and we'll go drive down to the lake.
Is there any other places outside of Austin, Round Rock that you really enjoy fishing, or you just kind of keep it local?
So I've been going down to Houston to train. I train at DST and the Texas Baseball Ranch, and my uncle, he's like borderline a bass master. He's super into fishing. He has a huge boat. So when I go down there, he took us out to Lake Conroe one night and we tore him up. My dad actually caught almost a 6 pounder. My dad had a good day, but yeah, Houston fishing, it's probably the best place to be.
Let's shift back to last season. Your professional debut on May 1st. What was the conversation like with the Nationals when you found out I'm going to be staying at extended spring training for at least a few weeks in April? Did they give you the timeline that we're shooting for May 1st for you to hit Fredericksburg?
No, it was in spring training with about a couple weeks left. And, being a competitor, I'm like, I want to start out in Fredericksburg. But they brought me into the office one day. We went over some things we were working on, and then they ended the conversation saying, "Hey, we'll just, we'll take it off your mind. You're going to be staying for extended." But that was the weirdest thing is I didn't really know like how long it was going to be. They said, it could be very short, it could be very long. You could go into the FCL season. It just kind of depends on how you do. What like just a lot of things. And I said, obviously I was bummed. I knew it was a good decision looking back at it, but at the time I was bummed. But so I went into my first extended outing and I was aggressive, I was motivated, and I had a great outing. And then the next week had another good outing, and the next week another great outing. And that's when they called me into the office. It's kind of cool because it's just going to low A, but they brought me in the office and they had all the coaches around, so we kind of made it cool. Like they told me I was going up, so told me, yeah, I headed up to Fredericksburg, got prepared for my first start. It was a 12 o'clock game. And so I was a little nervous going into that, just being my first game. Wasn't a good game at all, but it was good to just be out there. I got my first professional strikeout. I still have that baseball. And pretty much ever since then, there's been no looking back. So,
Yeah, tough timing for you to debut on an education day 12:05 game. Thousands of school kids in the stands. It was really hot in early May. What do you just remember about that day? I know you said you were nervous for it, understandably so. It's your professional debut, but a 12:05 game, the morning I'm sure is a little bit of a blur.
a little bit. The night before we went into extra innings, and being a starter, you're in the dugout. You're like, let's just get this dub. Let's get out of here. So I got back home because I'm big on sleep, and I got to bed a lot later than I wanted to, which was fine. But woke up the next day. Just with like the early morning start, just like trying to force food into your stomach is kind of the tough part. But I remember getting to the field. It was hot. I remember having my earbuds in, warming up, and I could hear like kids screaming at me like, "Can you give me a ball? Can you give me a ball?" And I was like trying to focus on my first start here. But yeah, the first inning or two, it was fine, but I started getting gassed, I guess, just because the nerves and the adrenaline going out there. I think it was the third inning, kind of unraveled, but that's kind of the biggest thing was I learned in pro ball like how to pitch, and that third inning of my debut, it was like I didn't really have an idea. I was just kind of just doing what I thought was best instead of actually having a plan and a scouting report and sequences and all that.
June 13th is the mark on my calendar where I think it all really turned on for you at Carolina. It was the first time you went 5 innings, only 3 strikeouts that day, but 5 scoreless innings. It was a time that the team was really struggling to score runs at that time. Ended up winning that game 1-0. That to me was the inflection point of your season. ERA of 4.32 in May, 2.41 in June, 2.12 in July, and then 0.88 in August. What do you remember about that day at Carolina? The Mudcats are going to be having nightmares about Sykora for many years to come from 2024, but what do you remember about that specific day that really clicked?
My dad drove in that day, and I think that was, maybe the second. I think that was the first non-debut game he saw me have of the year. So he came in, and we just treated it like high school baseball back in, summer ball. He drove me around in the rental car. We took care of my nutrition, took care of my sleep. little training, like small little things in the hotel gym, just going back to what we did back in high school. And when my dad's there, I'm motivated. I'm like, I want to, make him proud. So went into that game, felt good, and just kind of started to finally, because I started watching like Trevor Bauer videos on like learning how to pitch and like sequence, and that's kind of when that all started. And I remember starting to use sequences in that game, and I realized like, dude, this actually works, and I'm just getting free YouTube videos. And ever since then, for the rest of the season, every week I would just watch his daily or watch his weekly videos on how to pitch, and I think that's how I got better and better. I just started getting a better idea of how to pitch.
There was a point where it was surprising for all of us watching when somebody one would get a hit, but two, it was surprising when somebody would reach base in that month of August where you had 11 perfect innings in a row. It was 15 up, 15 down in Lynchburg, and then the no hitter, which we will talk about a little bit later, 18 up, 18 down. Where do you go mentally when you're in a run like that? Is it just the same, but everything is just being executed the way that you want it to, I imagine?
Yeah, for me, it's I guess when I finish a start, even after the perfect game, there's a lot of things with my delivery, and I was frustrated with. So I was like, the next day after my delivery, or 2 days after when I started throwing, I was working on stuff and back, getting back to the grind. So that was, I know, after Lynchburg, that was a good game, and then the next week was the perfect game. But I remember just like, I mean, it wasn't any different. I was sticking to my routine. I was still, super like picky on my mechanics and trying to like perfect everything. And but yeah, I had those 11 innings that went well. But honestly, I think also too, whenever I get in a situation like that where I just get dominant and dominant, like it gets harder for the other team just because I start, I just when I put the pedal down, I keep it down. I don't let off. So that was a big thing. It's just like when I feel like I got them backed up in the corner, it's full go.
You mentioned the force that your dad has had on your baseball career. I want to ask about your pitching coach, Justin Lord. How much did you two guys work together in spring training? And obviously, the relationship between the two of you when you got here to Fredericksburg was one that allowed you to really shine.
Yeah. In spring training, we didn't do a whole lot. It's kind of just every other pitching coach is watching your bullpens and stuff. Obviously, I met him and we talked quite a bit because I knew I wanted to play for him. But yeah, once the season got started, I think the biggest thing about him was like he was tough on me in a good way. Like I remember after that 11 inning perfect or 11 perfect innings, I gave up a hit, and he was like, that can't happen, like because the mistake I made, it wasn't like they beat me, it was I missed my spot and I sequenced wrong and I paid the price. And he got on to me about it. And I even had my last regular season start, I think, against Lynchburg. I got pulled and like I only went 2 innings and gave up like 3 runs or something like that. It was just really like out of the blue, just bad outing. But like the next day he came up to me and he's like, look, like this can't happen, like you gotta, obviously, I mean, I was trying, like you're not trying to give up runs and hits, but he was like, like you need to dig down deep in those situations and get to the fourth, fifth inning to give your team a chance to win. And that was like the Carolina, the first week of playoffs. That was my goal, was to go as far as I could. That way, because the playoffs about winning. So I was like trying to go as far as I could to give my team a chance to win. It wasn't about, you know, putting up zeros, or it wasn't about strikeouts. It was about, giving up less runs than our team was scoring. So,
Perfect segue to what I want to talk about next. Have you ever been on a championship team before?
I mean, maybe like 12U baseball, but nothing that was serious. This was my first time this year.
What was the clubhouse like during that run, especially after the clinch? We knew that it was coming. What was that clubhouse like it when it became go time? This is about winning right now because the minor league season, the regular season, sometimes guys got to get innings, guys got to get at bats. It's not always about winning this game tonight, but in the playoffs it is. And I think that clubhouse, from my vantage point up in the booth, seeing every single game, it seemed like the team as a whole kind of flipped the switch to win now. Let's go get this trophy. Is that the perspective that you had too?
Pretty much, to be honest with you, I'd say in the clubhouse is the exact same. Music blaring, people joking around, having a good time. but like when the game time started, like we wanted to win. So it's like kind of like with what I said earlier when I was pitching good, like not changing anything, keeping the same mindset. That's how we were. We were still the same in the locker room, still the same on the off days. Everything was the same. But once we stepped on the field, like just being in Virginia, it gets a little cooler. You can feel the baseball playoff weather, and I think just that little chill in the air gave us the motivation to every run is important. It's not like trying to score 4 runs an inning. It's like score a run as much as we can. That's all we tried to do.
Did you know when the playoffs started what games you were lined up to go? Game 2 in the first series and a potential game 3 clincher in the second one?
I think so. I knew I was pitching against Carolina the second game. I think it was the second game, and so I knew I was pitching that one, and then we won that day. And the next day, I asked Coach Lord. I was like, "Hey, when am I pitching?" He's like, "You're in for the game championship game 3 if needed." And to be totally honest with you, I didn't think we were even going to need it, but I stuck to my routine. I didn't change anything. I was working as hard as I could, and sure enough, the game came.
Obviously, the weather was a huge factor in that championship series, and it turns into a 7 inning winner take all game for the Carolina League title. That had to have been some mental gymnastics for you that night because it's like, oh, we win game 1. I don't have to go, but I still have to be ready. That had to have been a weird mental day for you.
Well, it definitely was normal. It definitely was, not normal as an unorthodox start. But back to high school, there was times where, like in those All American games, where you're not pitching the first inning, you're maybe pitching the third inning. So it's like having to, go by innings and stuff, and like time your warm up, time your preparation. That's kind of what I did. I went out for the first game for they announced the players, and as soon as they announced the players, I went back in the dugout, put my AirPods in, blasted my music, got locked in, went through my mobility, timed it up by innings 1 through 7 to the first game. I had exactly what I wanted to get done, mobility wise, nutrition wise, just priming my system and all that stuff. And then that way, whenever the game was over, I knew we were gonna have 50 minutes, but usually my warm up's 55 minutes. So I just like took out a couple little things here and there, made a couple small adjustments, and yeah. So unfortunately, I lost the first game, but I was like, this is what I do. This is the moment it all lined up, and just like doing that pregame warm up when it was dark outside, you had that mist in the air, the chill in the air. It was like I was so pumped up, and I was built for this moment.
Definitely spooky vibes that night, but
Yeah.
it turned out to be a great night for everyone in that clubhouse. And it just seemed like you were ready for that moment. I remember I went down to the clubhouse in between games to drop off a couple things, and I looked you in the eye and I went, ooh, I'm not sure I want to be a cannonballer hitter in this game 3. And obviously it worked out for the team. But one last thing before we move on to a couple breakdowns that we have, I wanted to ask, obviously you have, as you said, a 55-minute pregame routine, pre-start routine, but a little birdie told me that you're also pretty rambunctious about consuming some fruit during the game in the dugout. Is there some bananas that get deleted when Travis Sykora is on the mound?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of going back to high school. That's been what I've done. Because I went 5, 6 innings this year, which isn't a whole lot, but like right now, as stupid as it sounds, but it's true. Like I'm trying to prepare myself to go 9 innings, and um, so to go 9 innings, you got to have the energy. And I mean, a 9 inning game is probably, if I had to guess, around a couple hours or so. So throwing a baseball, taking a break, throwing a baseball, taking a break for 2 hours, like you can't eat nothing and expect your body to have full energy. So before the game, I make sure to, like feed myself right, lots of carbs, but lean. And then during the game, I'd say every other inning I eat a banana just to, put some sugar in my body, a little bit of carbs. That way, that the last inning of the game, I'm able to empty the tank. And like when I go 9 innings, I want to be ramping it up to 100 at the end of the game, and making myself almost all unhittable.
So how many bananas on average get deleted during a Sykora start?
I'd say this year probably about three, going 5 innings. I'd probably have one after the second inning, one after the third, and then one after the fourth. Kind of, it just depends. Sometimes I'd only have two. Sometimes I've had more. It would just be like, like listening to my body. How's my energy? How's my focus and all that stuff.
And who's responsible for the banana keeping? Is it you just bringing them to the dugout? Because again, I was at every game. I never once saw a banana in the dugout. So whatever you did to hide it from us outside observers, you did a good job.
Yeah, before the game, it was part of my routine. I'd always take 5 bananas just in case I needed five, which I never did. But I put 5 bananas in my bag, my duffel bag. After my warm up, I'd set my bag in the dugout, and they'd just be in there ready for me. One time I forgot them though, so Nate, our trainer, had to go run and grab some. That may have been against the perfect game, honestly, because I didn't know I was going six, and I was like, shoot, I need one more. So he went and ran over there and got it.
That's amazing. Let's put a pin in that. Now we're going to flip the switch to, let's go right into the no-hitter. We've got a few clips queued up that you have here. I want to start with the first one. We talked about the start before this. So this is when you pitched 18 up, 18 down to lead the first 9-inning no-hitter in FredNat franchise history. The week before, 15 up, 15 down, you used a ton of splitters. Lynchburg throws a ton of lefties at you, and you said that's a pitch you like to use against lefties. Establish the splitter early in this first AB that you're going to see. Walk me through the first AB of that game after you threw a ton of splitters the week before. You got to imagine that the Mudcats were ready for that pitch.
Yeah. Coming off the last week, that was the pitch that, well, I was like, dude, that was the best it's ever been. So I knew going into Carolina, I was going to be using it quite a bit. I think I was going to mix some into righties as well. Carolina, they have a lot of lefties too. So it's kind of a similar to Lynchburg. But right off the bat, the leadoff guy struck out with a nasty splitter, and I was like, I'm going to be using that. But it really didn't feel like a different start or anything. It just felt like kind of just a normal day. And it wasn't until like when I was going out to the last couple innings where I was like, okay, like I might be able to do this.
And every no-hitter has at least one, if not two, really good defensive plays. In that same clip that you're looking at there, Christian Vaccaro's diving catch, tell me what goes through your mind as a pitcher when a defender makes a play like that behind you.
It's when the ball is hit off the bat, most of the time you're like, oh man, I missed my spot or something. But with our outfield this year, when the ball is hit in the outfield, it's like instead of it being like, oh, the ball is going to drop, it's like, oh, this ball is probably going to get caught. They're going to run it down. And Vaccaro out and right, like he plays all out. So I knew he was going to lay out for it, and then he came up with the grab. But that was just early in the game too. So like it was obviously like, yeah, boy, good play, but it wasn't like, oh, you saved a perfect game or anything. So we really didn't even know.
Yeah, we didn't know it at the time, but that was a huge play to preserving the no-hitter. It was just in the second inning. Let's slide to the next video now. It's an 8-pitch at-bat strikeout to open the third inning. What's going through your mind when guys are fouling pitches off and you can't quite get that last third strike?
Well, that's why I have three pitches, I guess, because usually I mix in, my fastball, either fastball or slider or fastball and splitter, and sequence them off of that, and they start fouling stuff off, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna take out the third pitch now. Like, get them if they're adapting to my first two pitches, then I'm gonna use that. That's a perfect time to use the third one. So in those situations, that's what I do. Get them to think they're on me, and then take that third pitch out, and they're way off of it.
So we win the battle, the 8-pitch battle to open the third, 5 strikeouts through 3. Where's your mind at as far as length in the start? Because up until this point, you had only gone 5 innings. This night was the first time in your pro career that you went 6. Through 3, you got to be feeling good. Low pitch count, 5 strikeouts. Where's your mind at? Are you thinking maybe I can get through 6?
Not really. Before the game, actually, our player development director Eddie Longos was there a couple days before, and he's like, "Hey, act surprised, but if they tell you to go 6, or act surprised if they can say you go out for a 6." But he's like, "I'm telling you now that you're able to go 6 now." So I knew before the game that I was like, "Man, like I can go 6." So I was like, "I want to go 6," and yeah, first 3 innings, all those strikeouts, but I was just like, just keep doing my thing, keep, making sure my pitches are crisp, and stay consistent, stay efficient.
And it was early offense in that game. The next clip in that video that you've got there is Elijah Green's home run. That made it 6-0. I mean, you got to be feeling good when the offense has a night like that, when you're feeling really good yourself. How much does run support factor into your mindset when you're pitching?
Oh, it feels great. Especially when, in those close games. It's kind of like, obviously I do better under pressure, but I mean, we all got to admit, like when your team puts some runs up for you, it's like, okay, now I can, like when I say I get them in the corner and I can keep pushing. That's what I do with the other team. And yeah, he hit that ball, and it's actually off another high school pitcher from my draft class too. And he hit that ball, and I was like, that ball's gone. Like that was one of the furthest home runs I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a loud sound off of his bat a lot of the time for sure. So now let's go to the next video. You had a little PFP play, had to cover first to open the fifth inning. How much do you work on your PFPs? How much did you growing up even before you got drafted?
Well, I played shortstop, so like, good throws, having good hands, that was good. But like PFP, like covering first base, like if my high school coach is watching this right now, he's probably gonna like be like, "Are you serious?" Because I was so bad at it in high school. As soon as the ball was hit to first base, I would just stand there for like like a second or two, and then I'd be like, "Oh, I got to get to first." So I'd always forget. And obviously in pro ball, with how much we practiced that in spring training and back in Florida, I was like, I got to figure this out because like the last thing I want to do is get ripped for not getting over to first base. And so like that,
Happened in the World Series, right?
I know, yeah, that was one of my biggest things is like I got like it wasn't like I was being lazy. It's just like I just always forgot. Like I just didn't know how to get over to first base. But the first time the ball was hit over to first, I just remember running over there and being like, oh, like all the because we do so much PFP, but it really does help for situations like that.
And obviously, Pimmy gave you a great feed there. That was a pretty routine play in this game to open that fifth inning. So now you get the last strikeout of the fifth inning to end the fifth inning, and you're walking off there. We see you walking off in this clip. 61 pitches. You knew that you were allowed to go for a sixth inning because of what Eddie had said to you, but were you thinking, I'm definitely going out there for the sixth inning? I don't even care at this point?
Yeah, because that's when I knew I'd gone perfect for my time on the game. So walking off, I was like, there's no way they're not gonna let me go. Like they gotta let me go. And like pitch count was low. I was feeling good, and they said you're gonna go one more, and I was like, I got even more locked in and even more focused because I was like, I'm doing this. And sure enough, sixth inning, same thing.
Struck out the side in that sixth inning as we flip to the last clip there. The strikeout to end the sixth inning, you knew it was your last batter. That's the most emotion I ever saw you show on the mound during the entire season. Tell me about that little reaction that you gave us there. Was that just like, I'm him tonight?
I don't know. I just like doing that. Like I like getting aggressive and showing emotion on the mound, especially after going six perfect. You gotta get pumped. You can't just walk off there with no emotion. Like with me, internally, I try to use a lot of emotion to throw the ball to the home plate. And, like going through all that throughout the game, all the emotions that go into it, and then you finally walk off the field knowing you're done with six perfect innings. You're screaming and you're pumped.
So you knew you were going to get the handshake after that sixth inning, so you just emptied the tank in that last inning.
Yeah, I knew with pitch counts that with my first time being six, I was like, okay, I'm not going out for a seven as much as I wanted to.
Sure. It was ended up at 75 pitches, 18 up, 18 down. Okay, let's fast forward later in that clip that you've got there till to the ninth inning. I don't know how aware the dugout really was of the no-hitter situation. I know the guy on the mound, Merrick Baldo, that got the last out, certainly was not aware of what was happening at the time. But tell me about your own personal vibes in the dugout and then everyone around you as everyone kind of dealt with that in a different way. Because we had lost a no-hitter, remember, a couple weeks ago with two outs in the ninth inning. For me in the booth, I was just like, oh, please, don't let this happen again.
Yeah, I mean, I was locked in. As soon as I came off the mound, I obviously knew we were perfect through six. So like the seventh, eighth, and ninth, I was locked in just as much as anybody, and we got it done. And the coolest part like was just like like no one's done it in FredNats history. So it's like obviously it's a new organization, but just to like be in the record books or something like that, like that was the coolest thing.
All right, let's move on to your first playoff start at Carolina. We've talked a lot about some of your best performances came against those Mudcats, but before you even threw a pitch, you had the lead. You'll see Seaver King's RBI. what does it mean for you as a starting pitcher on the road, pitching the bottom of the first, to step on the mound with the lead?
Oh yeah, I mean that definitely gave me a lot of confidence. 'Cause I knew they were going to come at me with their best, but to, for them to have to double what our team did the first inning just to get in the lead, like gives you a lot of confidence. And yeah, he scored that run right off the bat, and I was like, thank goodness. I was like, let's go. Like this is yeah, like I just kind of knew it was game over already.
And so you walk the first guy and then you immediately pick him off. We didn't see you have to use your A pickoff move a lot because there really wasn't a lot of guys at first base against you. But in this high leverage situation, lead off walk, you don't want to let that offense get some momentum. Just snap right back to first and pick him off. I mean, obviously that guy, we know that he's trying to steal. Did you think about that? Like this guy's going to go and I'm going to pick him off?
Yeah, I knew he was going to steal. He was a leadoff guy, scouting report into the game. I knew how he was going to be stealing. But yeah, he got a little too jumpy over there, and I just back picked him. And it's I don't like I like being the like I don't like being in the stretch as much with runners on. So I was like, I'm just gonna pick him off real quick so I can get back to my big leg kick.
My favorite part about that clip is the bullpen in the background reacting to the guy being out. I mean, I don't even know if you were paying any attention at all to what the bullpen is doing because it's kind of a unique situation there in Carolina. But watching that clip back, I definitely got a chuckle out of. They all knew it. They were all made the call for the ump.
Yeah, we love the bullpen. They're funny down there. There's some good stories happening in the bullpen all the time.
No doubt about that. Okay, so then you strike out Batanti, he didn't do anything against you the last time here, but he hit 3 or 4 home runs when Carolina came to Fredericksburg the last time that we played them. Felt like a big strikeout to kind of get momentum back on your side to strike him out to end the first inning.
Yeah, I know he was one of their best hitters. Like obviously not to go in depth, but I have a pretty complex scouting report method that I use and create on my own. So I knew exactly what I needed to throw to him. I knew exactly where to throw it. So yeah, I struck him out, and I was like I said, like just kind of like even before the game, I kind of just knew it was game over because I had a really direct plan on what I needed to do, and if I as long as I followed it, then we would have won, and that's what happened. So, but yeah, striking him out after that first, like because the first inning for some reason the mound was like soaked. I remember like slipping and falling and throwing like a fastball at 88 or something. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this sucks. But so I struck him out, and I was like, okay, got through that first inning, good inning. Now let's get out to the second. And the mound will be a little more dry, and we'll be ready to go.
So let's go right to the second because for the second inning in a row, the leadoff guy reaches. It was a leadoff walk in the first inning, then a leadoff single in the second inning. But after the leadoff single, you strike out the next guy, and then you see in this clip, Kevin Bizzell, you call Bizzell out, the catcher, and you have a conversation. And whatever you guys talked about, it definitely worked because you struck out the next 2 guys in order. What was that about?
So for me, runner control, that was a big thing I was working on this year. And so I asked Bazell because I mean, the guy, he was their catcher who was on first base. So usually catchers don't steal, but he looked pretty athletic and he looked fast. So I really didn't know like what his lead looked like. And, I threw like 4 or 5 previous pitches with him on first base. And so I called him up and I said like, hey, is he going to steal? Like, does he have a big lead? And he's like, no, he's stuck at first. He's not going anywhere. So that's when I went back to my big leg kick and dominated him.
So the conversation was only about the guy at first base. It wasn't even about the next 2 hitters coming up.
No, it wasn't about the hitters. And in between innings and before the game, like I said, I create a pretty complex scouting report method. And I went through Bazell. We went through everything, and so pretty much in the game, it's just we already know what we need to do. I have my scouting report actually in the dugout, so we go over it every now and then. But yeah, rarely do we come up and talk about the batters because we already have a good plan.
So let's go to the next clip now. You have to make a routine play yourself. It's not a PFP. It's I have to step and throw after I field this ball. Do you like those opportunities to play some defense and get yourself in the game a little more?
Absolutely. Because me being a shortstop, like whenever I don't know if you noticed, when I get a ball hit back to me, I feel like a shortstop and I throw it sidearm like a shortstop because that's what I did when I played shortstop in high school. And so like, because if I were to throw like a pitcher, you'd probably make a bad throw because you can't like wind up and throw it over to first. So for me, it's just have some smooth hands and flick it over like a shortstop, and it's right to the chest every time.
So we go to the 5th inning, 2 strikeouts in that inning, your last inning, the first one with a slider, the second one with the splitter. that night, did you know that it was only going to be 5 innings, or were you hoping for 6?
Well, kind of with my pitch count, not really going over 80. I knew that was gonna be the end of it for that game. So yeah, I got those first two guys. The second guy actually, I remember is like one of my favorite stories of the season. I think I threw him a fastball. He fouled it off his shin, and he was like on the ground. He looked like he was dead. He was like in so much pain because he hit his shin, and so like we were waiting for like a few minutes, and they're like, "Hey, do you want a warm up pitch?" So I purposely like winded up, did a huge leg kick, threw one at like 96 because he was watching right there, like right behind the batter's box, the hitter. And he steps in the box, and then I quick pitch him with the slider, just like completely just change everything. And he had no chance. Like I kind of bullied him. I got to feel bad for him, but I knew like I did that all for a reason. So that was one of my favorite stories of the season.
Mental warfare with Travis Sykora. And that's another thing that I didn't get to ask about earlier is the changeup and the quick pitch. I mean, it's just whenever you're feeling it, right? I mean, I asked Colmy, I asked Bazell, I asked Loma Vita, the guys that caught you throughout the season, and they said that they're as surprised as anyone else when it comes.
Yeah, pretty much I use it whenever I feel like the hitter, like I've used a couple of my pitches already and the hitter could be on, like, cause like say someone shows me a swing that I'm like, okay, like he can't hit a slider right here, but he does such a bad swing that he probably knows a slider's coming. So I'm like, well, like that's an example of I'll throw a quick pitch in there just to, like make his mind kind of go blank. And just certain situations like that, the quick pitch, it's just it's kind of just feel, I guess. Like there's really no exact time I use it. I just kind of in my mind know, okay, this is the right time to use it, and this isn't.
All right, so 5 scoreless innings in that one. Freddie's win that series in 2 games, and then we go back to championship night, that spooky night that we talked about earlier. You struck out the first guy you faced. How helpful is that for your confidence? One up, one down via the strikeout. You got to be feeling like the wheels are turning at that point.
Yeah. I'd say halfway through that first batter, I knew that it was going to be a long night for them. Everything felt like it was coming out of my hand with the right tunnel. Everything was tunneling well. My focus was there. My command was there. Velo was a bit down, but the command was there, and that's what kind of got me through. And yeah, I mean, I remember throwing the leadoff guy tons of sliders, and he was way off of them because they were moving like perfect, the exact way I wanted them to. And like every strike I threw, the crowd was going crazy. So it just kind of fed my energy to like make like I'm like I just want to make him swing and miss every pitch.
5 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. I mean, I don't think it's possible for you to be more amped up than you were at that time. Like you said, feeling good. The tunneling was right. The crowd was great. I mean, we're playing for a trophy. That had to have been just like peak vibes at that point.
Yeah, it was definitely the coolest game I've ever pitched in my life. Like I said before the game, I never do I warm up before the game and the sun's already set and it's already pitch black out. So like it just had that spooky vibe like you talked about. It was really cool warming up and getting ready for that game with their team knowing all they need is one win and all we knew is we need one win. So it was winner takes all, and that was like the perfect game for me to pitch. And yeah, every just everything about that night was so cool and definitely my favorite game I've ever thrown.
And they definitely had the momentum too after winning the first game of the doubleheader to force that game 3, and it was just snuffed out immediately. So 5 strikeouts through 2 innings for you. Then we go to the bottom of the second inning in the next clip. The man, Brandon Pimentel, hits the 2-run homer into the bullpen to make the crowd go even more insane. What was going through your mind when that ball went over the fence?
Yeah, I was staying loose in between innings. I remember I was throwing my plyo balls into the wall, and I heard the crack of the bat, and I heard everyone go crazy. And I looked over, and I didn't see the ball, but I saw him running the bases, and I was like we're gonna win this because, like I said, I knew I was on that night. We got a couple runs, and I was like it's over, and it just fueled me even more. Like my team, the offense is putting in their best work for me, so I'm gonna I'm gonna do my best for them.
And Christian Vaquero gets hurt running the bases. Guy falls on his shoulder. He can't continue. So then Nate Ochoa has to go into left field. He had played 1 game in left field the entire season, and that was before you had even gotten to Fredericksburg. It was back in April. He makes that play. Guy hits a little chopping ground ball past the third baseman. Ochoa, not a left fielder at all, comes up throwing, throws the guy out at second. I mean, it just felt like everything was aligning for you that night.
Yeah, if anyone was going to do that, it was going to be him. So we talk about that all the time, like getting that leadoff guy, he almost hits a double and we throw him out. We execute it perfectly. Like obviously I was like mad because I gave up that hit, but like, I mean, I just made the smallest little miss, but yeah, him out there, he played, like I said, the offense was playing as hard as they could, and clearly the defense was playing as hard as they could for me. So after that play, it was back to that same mindset of like, I'm going to give them everything I have.
And then you get a strikeout to end that third inning to kind of steady the ship. Tell me about the sequence of the strikeout that you see there in the second clip from the championship game.
Yeah, so that was their 9 hole, and we played Kannapolis 2 weeks before. And like I said, I have a pretty complex method of scouting that I do before the game. And like he was one of the guys that I was like, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And as you can see, I struck him out that low and away, or that low down slider, because he chased it every time. And yeah, I got that out, and it just fueled me even more.
And then in the next group of clips, you strike out the last hitter that you face in the 2024 season. That had to just feel like almost euphoria. You've got the lead. It's the championship game. You got two big guns in the bullpen coming in after you. Was there a conversation about the sixth inning, or did you know it was done after 5 in that 7-inning game?
Yeah, no, I struck him out. That was my goal because I kind of thought there might have been a chance I wasn't going to go more just because that's only a 7-inning game. And like in high school, my last batter of high school, I popped him up. I didn't get a strikeout. And then like, so I've never had like a season ending last pitch as a strikeout. And I was like, I'm going to do it right here. If this is the inning they call me. But yeah, I struck him out, and I wanted to go the whole game because there's only 7 innings. And I was
Right.
like, they told me I was done. And then that was the only time I was like, come on, man, like let me finish this game. That was the only time I did that all year. But yeah, like you said, we had our last two best bullpen guys in the bullpen ready for us. So it wasn't it was maybe just selfish ambitions of wanting to finish the game, but I knew we were going to win with those guys behind me.
For the record, I wanted you to go back out there for the sixth inning as well, but it worked out great. You get there in the sixth inning. Robert Crayons, who was nails for us in the regular season after the draft and the playoffs, comes in to pitch the sixth inning. 2 walks in a row with 2 outs, then gets that lazy pop up to Ochoa and left that was a little dangerous. What were you thinking from the dugout when you saw Nate kind of drifting and then reaching down to make the catch to get us out of trouble?
Yeah, the first thing I said to Clemmy right next to me, I was like, Clemmy, that was the most scary play I've seen in my life. Like, obviously he never played outfield much, but like it was just like, oh my gosh, like that'd be the worst way to go down. But he came up with it, and we were cracking up in the dugout. That was funny.
And then seventh inning was nice and clean for Arguelles. Strikes out the last guy to secure the championship for the FredNats. I mean, that had to have just been top of the world for you and everyone in that dugout.
Yeah, we all hopped over the railing, and we were so happy just to, I don't know, end a great season with a championship. Like it couldn't have gone any better. That was a fun night, just celebrating, and is like celebrating but saying goodbye to everyone until spring training. Like it is a bittersweet, but it was a good memory.
No doubt about it. Well, thanks for doing that breakdown with us. I think that's going to be really great for everyone to see you going through all of these high leverage situations. Any final thoughts? I mean, do you know the date that you're reporting to West Palm in spring training?
No, last year I didn't find out till about a month or so, kind of before. So I honestly have no clue when I'll be going, but I mean, I'm already excited. Like I said, I feel like I can show, the fans like the real Travis Sykora with what I learned from pitching this year with, back to my 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Like I'm ready to show everybody the combination of both.
Any final thoughts about your time in Fredericksburg and the stadium and these fans? I mean, obviously, when you perform the way you did, a baseball town like this one is going to gravitate towards you. I'm sure that you have a lot of fan stories.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, like personally, I remember a bunch of individuals, a bunch of fans who were, super supportive, super great. But yeah, just Fredericksburg, I loved it. Like I wish it was like I wish they move it to high A for next year and then double A for the next year. That way I can always play at Fredericksburg, because that was the coolest, best atmosphere, coolest place. I'm probably gonna play at for a while in the minor leagues.
Awesome, man. Well, Travis Sykora, the Carolina League Pitcher of the Year, is the first guest on our This Week in FredNats off-season podcast. My man, this has been so much fun for me, and I'm sure the fans are gonna love seeing you talk some ball. So appreciate you coming on, and health and success to you. We'll be watching you closely, of course.
Sounds good. Thanks. That was real fun.